Huh?
Why are you so hirsute this evening?
What does that even mean? What does hirsute mean?
It means hairy, brother. It means hairy.
Because it's Harry. It's Handkerchief Dynasty Harry edition. For all people named Harry, for hair itself and appreciation of hair. I mean, you're looking pretty hairy yourself, to be honest. Both in the sense of having a lot of hair, and hairy. And when people say something's hairy, when people say something's hairy in the sense of like sketchy, potentially like dangerous. You look a little hairy.
It may be true, but I think you'd be hard pressed to find someone who wouldn't say that you look hairier than me. Hairier than most, actually. I think you probably look like one of the hairiest people on earth right now.
That's true. In any case, welcome one, welcome all, Handkerchief Dynasty. We're catching up with our good friend, the High Priest of Oilers Magic, prior to our game against the
Ottawa Senators.
Ottawa Senators, going into the Ottawa game. We didn't have the best result against Montreal, dropping that game in OT with Eric Stahl.
Who cares?
Eric Stahl scoring the. Well, this is my question.
We played a great game.
Do you just not care about any of these games now?
No, I mean, I mean, I don't care really about any game we lose in overtime and we get a point out of. I don't care when in this. Why would I care?
Isn't that a bad thing? Isn't that a bad thing? The fact that like we like get to overtime and everyone just checks out and we're like, well, we got to overtime, and then we all just kind of like we're in this miasma of just like it doesn't matter once you get to overtime, as though getting to overtime is somehow the fucking goal of playing the game, which it's not.
No, I think that was like our second or third overtime game. I don't think it's probably not something that the Oilers have focused on very much in practice. And they looked like it. They looked like they didn't really know what to do. And it looked like maybe the Habs spend like 75% of the time in practice, like, guys, gather around. Now, what's really important here, Habs, is what we do once we hit that overtime. Really want to focus on that this season. So Montreal looked like that. So it's fine. It's fine.
I love that. Like that character is so.
Yeah, so I'm not that upset about it. No. I mean, we got a point out of it. It was on a point, turning that into the proverbial 3-point game is like the worst thing that could have happened for everyone else, right? Everyone else was like, oh, great, once that happened. So I'm kind of doubly fine with it. I'm not really upset at all. It's great.
Where do you feel about the state of like our extended roster going into the playoffs here? I mean, like I'm wondering if you said, for example, Ennis is a guy that you will have on your roster for a little run with that veteran presence. What about James Neal? Where does he fit into that equation?
I don't know. It's just James Neal.
James Neal's like, where did he even go?
Yeah,
he's just gone.
That's what I was gonna say.
It's crazy.
I'm not sure. I think like if James Neal would like to play during the playoffs, if he decides that he'd like to, I just have a feeling like there's certain veterans like that I think there's guys like Ennis, and then there's guys like James Neal. And those are two different types of guys, right? Where Ennis is like, he really wants to contribute any way he can. And then there's the veterans like James Neal, where it's just kind of like if they ain't scoring, they're just like, well, I don't know. I'm going to try to like get this going again. And then if that happens, I'll let you guys know. Otherwise, like, you know where you can find. Like that's the impression I get from like James Neal, is that he's not really going to contribute if he's not scoring, and he's fine with that. I feel kind of, and so are we. Maybe we'll see him in the playoffs. though. I mean, I will say this: in the qualifiers against the Hawks, he was one of the guys to me that looked engaged and looked kind of the most surprised when it dawned on him that the Oilers just weren't going to play playoff hockey. He was kind of shocked by that. It seemed to me like he was willing to go there, and nobody else really seemed like they wanted to, and he seemed surprised by that. So maybe he gets a few games in here before the playoffs begin, and then we'll see what happens. I could definitely see the lineup. I mean, there's going to be some changes in the lineup. Like the Oilers don't look bad by any stretch right now, but I think I've seen them look maybe a little bit better. There's some tweaks that could be made.
We're in that runway zone of like trying to get the airliner into the air, you know, like really just like battening down the hatches, making sure all the equipment is stowed away properly in the overhead. You got a fourth line that can roll. You got a third line. You feel comfortable playing against anybody. We're not there yet. Like Dave Tippett's going to be looking for answers. Like he's going to be going in there saying, look, I want answers for the playoffs. That's how he rolls. Like we saw that last year with the way the Neil Jujar Chiasson line kind of got like solidified near the end of the year there. Remember? Was it Chiasson there who was with Neil and JJ?
I don't remember at all. I don't remember. All I know is that you don't want to limp into the playoffs. That's what they say, right? You don't want to limp into the playoffs. So, but at the same time, I don't really think we are limping. Like we didn't, like we got a point against the Habs. You know what I mean? Like it's fine. I'm always fine with an overtime loss. It's fine with me.
I've got a problem with the overtime loss. Just philosophically speaking, I feel as though it's like it's the participation trophy of professional sports, and it should be abolished and torn out at the root.
What do you mean? Like there shouldn't be a point for losing?
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, if that was the case, then maybe I'd have more of a problem with it. But as it stands, it's very easy for me to be like,
well, or do the 3-point system where the regular season, like regular win is 3 points, and then you do 2 and 1 for overtime.
No. Just eliminate the loser point. I think it's easier. I don't want to start having to multiplying by 3s. Like I'm too used to by 2s. Have you ever tried to make sense of like a professional soccer point system? I don't want to be in that sort of situation where it's like one team has played 2 games and has like 12 points, and another team has played like 6 games and has like 2 points.
Based on his comments today on Oilers Now, though, and he also had an interview in The Athletic, Kenny Holland was talking about how he had a lot of older players when it was asked about re-signing Mike Smith, and he's like, you know, I had Chelios, I had Hasek. He listed all the names of super like old guys that played on the wings. And when you think about it, I mean, is there a reason why Mike Smith could not be employed by the Edmonton Oilers as a goaltender at like around his current cap hit?
No.
And like play like, you know, maybe he'll only play like a handful of games as a backup, but he could also might just like run away with it.
Yeah, what you're really asking me here is if I think Mike Smith's age is an issue. And the answer is no, I don't. Because that would also mean I think my age is an issue.
That's a good way of putting it. So it's quite a self-serving position. Is what
but I don't ever think. I mean, I'm not one of those guys who would make a decision about a pro athlete based on their age over their performance. Like, well, that guy had a really good season, but he is 38 years old. Like, what does that mean? Like, but he had a really great season. So you're thinking that like when he's 39, he's just going to like atrophies like some sort of like Last Crusade, like when they go see that guy and he sips from the wrong cup. Like that's what you think going to happen during one of the games or in the off season or something. Like it just doesn't make any sense.
That would be quite something.
Yeah, well then age would be an issue. If age was like a ticking time bomb, when they were like, well, he's 39, but you know what's going to happen eventually, and I don't want it happening like at one of our games in front of kids.
Goalies do. There are goalies that have played really into their 40s. You know,
well,
it has been a thing.
I think goaltending almost more than any other position. Like if you're a goaltender that's kind of figured it out, I mean, you can play a really long time. Grant Fuhr played a really long time. Johnny Bauer, if you want to go way back, played like a bazillion years. Nobody even knows how old he was when he stopped playing. Like it was like a trade secret or something. Have you ever read about that? That's a good
No.
thing to read about. Yeah, Johnny Bauer would like never tell anyone how old he was. And they'd be like, "How old are you, Johnny?" And he'd be like, always avoid the question. And like nobody knows. He could have been like anywhere from like 40 to like 45 years old. Like there's no records of exactly how. Anyway, traditionally goaltending is a position where you can kind of, if you don't suck, you can play into your ripe old age, so-called.
So, like, what are we adjacent to death? Like we talked our last episode, we were adjacent to taint. I feel as though there might be like a joylessness that comes out of this string of games in front of us here.
Yeah, totally.
I felt the tinge of it in the last game.
Yeah,
Playing Ottawa, it's weird because I mean, obviously we didn't get the result we wanted, but there was something about that Montreal game, and I just kept on. Your words were ringing in my head, where you're just like, I don't want nothing to do with those makeup games,
Yeah.
And I kind of, I think you might have been onto something there.
Well, you know what, man? You're right. There's a joylessness about this whole last hunk of the season here. I mean, things have changed. It feels like kind of, I don't know, at least in Canada, it feels like the States is doing quite a bit better. I'm kind of jealous of where they're at with everything right now. But in Canada, it feels like over the past 2 weeks, things have changed, and joylessness has, that's kind of like how I feel too. Like these things are happening, but like it's not the same. You know what I mean? This last hunk of season is going to be it's going to be interesting. Anyway, yeah, I felt it too, and I think I can just attribute it to what's going on, kind of outside of the hockey world right now. Like as soon as you start questioning whether or not these games should be happening at all, that takes the fun out of it, right? Like you have to come at these games, you have to come at the pandemic games with a lot of confidence to make it work, or otherwise like you're just kind of worried or something. Like it's no fun. It's no fun.
It's still fun, but it's less fun. It's diminished in its fun. I feel like a little bit. It started to feel a little diminished because we all just want the fucking playoffs to start now. And we really don't give a shit about this regular season runway that much. As not even, I mean, the owners seem to give a whole hell of a lot about it. Like they give a shit for sure.
I think what's happening.
They want those games. They're like games.
Yeah, I'm almost starting like right now. I just kind of wish like the season was over. Is how I feel, and it's not over. It's like, weird. And I'm talking like playoffs. Like I kind of just wish like it was done. And once the playoffs start, I'm sure, things change very fast, and with every day I'm closer
we could have an amazing game against Ottawa tomorrow that could totally turn our mood around too for somehow.
No, I don't think it's really game dependent though. Like I've seen us kick the crap out of Ottawa before. I'm sure
if there was like a bench clearing brawl and like a goalie fight and like Cassian had a hat trick or something or whatever, like I'm sure there's something that could happen tomorrow that could really like get our juices flowing, but it's not going to happen, but it could.
It just feels like it's not dependent on the Oilers right now. Like there's outside forces that are dictating how I feel about watching hockey right now that I can't shake. Can't shake them. Won't be able to shake them till we're all like safe and sound.
Are we re-entering the Twilight Zone? We entered the Twilight Zone earlier. I think that was like in the mid 70s, Handkerchief Dynasty episode 70 or something. And we might be going back into it because it's a very weird kind of in between territory. The games are being rescheduled now. We have a couple of rescheduled games.
The trade deadline's coming up.
Yeah, trade deadline is Monday. So
I think we are entering the Twilight Zone. I think we are re-entering the Twilight Zone. Absolutely.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm wondering if maybe a face-off specialist. Here's a question though. Is there an added risk for trading for Glendening? Because if it doesn't work out, we're really going to look like we ate fucking Detroit's pajamas, to use a metaphor that's never been used before.
Glendening? Really? Glendening?
Yeah.
Like why?
There's tons of talk about it. There's tons of talk. Why? I'm asking you because it's all over the papers. Everything but the hockey news, which I don't read anymore, obviously.
The
It's
hockey
talking
news
about the
is
Oilers being interested in Glendening. NHL like leader in face-off percentage.
really.
Yeah. I mean, why
Yeah,
not? Why not have him and then you have JJ with playing with like a Haas on his wing on the third line.
yeah,
You
maybe.
know,
I don't know. I mean, if it's me, I don't bring it in anymore. I don't bring in more guys at this point. I just don't. But maybe you have a face-off specialist, but who do you give up for that, right? So who do you give up to get that guy? Who do you take out of the mix?
I don't know, like a Caleb Jones maybe, but that's probably too much for that trade. Like that, honestly, we should be able to get him for cheap. But here's another question. I saw a tweet a certain someone put out earlier, calling Ryan Nugent Hopkins Horc 2.0,
Yeah.
nothing more. Can you please expound on this rather salacious and scandalous remark?
I just don't think he's as great as everyone makes him out to be. Horcs made the All-Star game one year, got hurt in the All-Star game. And I think like that's about as good as Nuge is. I think he's Horcs 2.0. I don't understand the cult of Nuge. Never have, never will.
Never
Yeah.
have. Never
No,
have.
not really. Maybe when we first got him, he was our shiny new guy. I just don't get it. I mean, lately, like he can't hit the broadside of a barn. He like double clutches his shots like every single chance he gets. I'm just not a Horcs or a Nuge guy. I am a Horcs guy. No, I wasn't.
Yeah.
No, I wasn't. I remember
there were very few Horcs guys.
There was there was like I only went to maybe like during the whole decade of darkness, maybe like 6 or 7 games. But I remember most of those games, like I would just yell like at Horcs, like I would just yell at Horcs the entire game. Like that's what I chose to do with like my experience, you know? Instead of like rooting for the team or creating positive energy, I would just use my presence to like verbally assault Sean Horcoff.
What would you say? What kind of stuff were you saying? Would you yell at John Horcoff?
I would just like
hey Horcs,
groan loudly, request that he do something like really loudly, like Horcs do something like really loudly.
Horcs like, do something
like really loudly.
I'm sure that's very helpful. I'm sure he hadn't thought about doing something.
Yeah, well, it didn't look like he had. But I would be saying like similar things to Nuge, I think. Like, hit the net, Nuge.
Yeah.
He can't hit that. He's had a crappy season. Like, what's the big deal? He's this season at least, he's Horcs 2.0. No?
So I mean, if he gets re-signed, you're gonna your thumbs down in it, or are you gonna be?
If he gets re-signed
from your little diatribe?
No, if he gets re-signed for 6 or more than 6,
there's no fucking way he's getting re-signed for 6 or more than 6. 6 is a stretch.
Well, then what's the problem? Like, I imagine that was the hang-up why he didn't sign, is because like they came at him with something that started with 5, and he was like, no, 6. And they were like, come on. Like, I don't think so, Nuge.
Well, this is the contract that he's going to need to live the rest of his life off of, unless he becomes some sort of fucking TSN analyst. But that's not going to happen. He's going to become a horse guy. He's going to be at the track betting on Infinite Patience and his other horses and whatnot, and being just like a gentleman. So he's going to need some funds to buy those golf shirts.
Yeah, he's going to need
go through a lot of golf shirts.
Yeah, you're right. I take it back. Like, Nuge will need the extra $1 million for doing nothing. You're right. Like, his job is hitting the net, and he constantly misses the net. But let's give him the extra $1 million because why? He needs to go play with horses. Makes sense, man.
In his old age, man, when he's all post-concussed.
The Nuge will be fine. I just don't think, I don't think he's that great. I'm not a Nuge guy. Whatever. Lots of people are, and they're crazy about it to the point of, like, in my opinion, like a blinding mania is the vibe I get from a lot of the Nuge heads, where it's just like they would die for Nuge is the impression I get.
Yeah. There's definitely a few of them who would die for Nuge. Would die for Nuge.
More than any other player on the team by far. Possibly more than any other figure in Western civilization, like over the past 100 years, these people would like lie down for Nuge. and they'd be willing to extinguish themselves in order to like give Nuge more money or make him stay in Edmonton or something. So I'm not there. I don't think he's that great. I think
who are the other? Who fills out the top three after Nuge? Like maybe
okay.
like Yanni would be number two.
Yanni,
People are
maybe
really
like
into Yanni, man.
yeah, good
It's
call.
weird
Yeah,
too. It's weird.
Yanni, Nuge, and let's say Ellen. At this point, I think like Ellen's supporters are probably like they've lost their shit. I'd
Two
say.
words: David Boreanaz.
Oh yeah. Okay. I'll have to take your word for it, but I can see it. Sure.
All right. Well, I won't hold it. I won't hold your Nuge bias against you, or rather, your,
Well, what
somewhat
do you
candid.
think?
You're showing a lot of candor and a lot of honesty. I won't hold your candor and honesty, or
I mean, do
your
you think Nuge has had a really great season? Do you think there's been so
no.
many games when he's been completely absent? He's playing on a line, friend. He's playing on a line with the best player on earth. And there's been more games than not where he's just not there. Like, I just don't hear him. He hasn't had a shot, or he gets a shot and he like telegraphs it, like pretty much like wires a message to the goalie before he shoots it, like a Western Union, like going to shoot the puck, stop, get ready, I'm shooting it now, stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you
Yeah,
mean.
so
That's really telegraphing. Really.
yeah, literally telegraphing it.
Wow.
Yeah, I just he's had a terrible year. And I've never been, I don't know, it feels as though I've always needed to convince myself that Nuge is what I want Nuge to be. And this year he just hasn't been that at all. And I haven't been able to even like attempt to convince myself in all sincerity that he is that thing. It's been way too easy just to be like, well, no, he's not actually that thing. You were right all along. So
yeah, but I mean, maybe it's just the stress of the pandemic, and its weight on the relationship, where you're like, you know what, like things seemed okay,
yeah,
but for the last year, he just hasn't been able to hit the net, and I'm always taking the trash out, and it doesn't seem to make time for me.
that's just if you're on a line like with Connie, you have to be better than that. Like you can't. I don't know, and he just gets so much rope. Like, and maybe
What a
I
dearth!
do.
What a dearth of guys that have played on that line with Connie that have
Yeah.
been able to produce, though.
You know what I think
Have you
though?
noticed
I
that?
think. Oh yeah, for sure. But I also think that Nuge is a very special guy in that room. I'm a big room guy. So everything I'm saying about Nuge right now could immediately be canceled by like one anecdote about Nuge in the room or something like that. Or when when Dry called Nuge the quiet leader on the team, that was something where I was like, oh, okay, well then maybe I'm all wrong about Nuge.
You are. Let me ask you a question though. Do you think that Connor is just so good that it's just incredibly hard to play with him? Just like it's like you're like a jet pilot who learned how to use like an afterburner engine
Yeah,
for like
maybe.
a F-16 or whatever, and they're like, okay, now fly this anti-gravity UFO device that we pilfered from like our Egyptian dig site a la Stargate SG-1, and you're like, how does anti-gravity work? And they're like, just do it, just go in there, just do what, use your natural instincts, try and use your chemistry with
right.
the art of flying, and then
and
see if you can just drive this other thing that's like on its whole fucking level.
You get in and there's like no controls. It's just like completely flat surface.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, I think there's something to that for sure. But on the other hand, like Nuge gets looks and he like misses the net or double clutches. You know what I mean? So I think like when you have the puck on your stick and you have a shot and you are consistently missing the net or like giving the goalie 5 seconds to prepare himself for the shots, then I think that has nothing to do with who you're playing with, and just like you're in your head, or it's just not happening, or like your Horcs 2.0 is the problem.
If he is Horcs 2.0, that means in 3 or 4 years he'll be our third line center.
Yeah, and you know what? There's nothing wrong with being Horcs 2.0. Like I don't think like during the decade of darkness, whenever the Oilers did score, like 75% of the time, it was Horcs. He was an all-star one year. He had a great season, and he was always, I thought there was things that Horcs did that were great, but there was like a cult around. I mean, he was another guy where he was being sort of labeled as like our franchise superstar, and it's just like, no, that clearly was not the case. Like Horcs kind of sucked. So
nobody is calling Nuge our franchise superstar.
No, but I'm saying absolutely, of course. But I'm saying that I don't know, maybe it's like kind of a hangover from when he was that, because he was that for a while. And he was kind of like, he was that for a little while. So maybe like that expectation is, I just don't think I don't think Nuge is the type of player that people want him to be or think he is. I don't think he is that. I think he could be like he's a guy I could picture winning the Selke Award for like best defensive forward or something like that. You know what I mean? That's how I picture Nuge. And maybe if like we adjusted our expectations and kind of maybe even if Nuge adjusted his own expectations of himself, maybe that's a little presumptuous of me to say. Probably not.
Well, let's call him up. Let's just give him that advice. It's like, Nuge, maybe you should update your expectations of yourself, Nuge.
Yeah.
And he'll be like, you know what, guys? I never thought of it that way.
Who is this?
Why don't we start the wind down procedure there, though? Like, what are your thoughts going into this the Death March game against Ottawa? No, like, are you kind of just like,
you know what my thoughts are? I'll tell you. My main thought is that the game tomorrow is one of those incredibly early starts, right? Like,
I think it starts 4 p.m. Edmonton time.
I think it's
3 p.m.
No, I think it's 3 p.m. Ottawa time. Isn't it?
No, I think it's 3 p.m. Edmonton time. No, I think it's 2 p.m. Edmonton time.
No. It's
Jesus
not.
Christ.
It's not 2 o'clock.
Radio, everybody. Hold on here. Hold on. 3 p.m. Edmonton time. Yeah, so that's actually 2 p.m.
really?
my time. Yeah.
Okay, well then my thoughts are that is the earliest weekday game ever, as far as I know, in Oilers history.
It's going to be pretty crazy to have such an early weekday game.
Yes, incredibly crazy. I mean, the game is going to be over before supper.
Yeah, so what the fuck?
I'm not at all ready for it mentally.
That's really weird.
It's probably going to like completely shatter me.
Is there another game to watch? We have to watch another game after supper to kind of maintain the space-time continuum, like fabric of the universe. Because like otherwise, it'd just be far too confusing to watch a full hockey game, eat supper, and then do something else. As
though the game never happened.
Well, it'll feel that way.
Yeah, by the time I go to bed, the game will feel like it was the day before. So I'm not looking forward to it. I don't need to put myself through these sort of, I don't need to mess with time like that. I got enough going on. I don't need that also happening.
All right.
So I'm kind of dreading that game. And then, hopefully we'll win. But like I said, and I think we're on the same page, we're in the twilight zone here. There's a bit of joylessness surrounding all of this particular stretch of games. I need like a good solid like 7 o'clock game against the Jets. That'll straighten me out. You know what I mean?
Totally. Yeah.
The Jets are so good for that.
Like when they try and wake up Doc in Back to the Future 3 with like a mixture of like Tabasco sauce and like whiskey.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
That's what playing a 7 p.m. game against the Jets would be exactly that.
Yeah, 7 p.m. against the Jets is like, a shot of Tabasco and then someone dunking your head in like the horse water.
Well, those are the only games that fucking matter. So I guess that's the fact that punctuates this schedule means that we're not in a true death march territory.
No, I mean there are going to be games against the Jets that will give us a sense of direction and stuff. Yeah, I don't know. I mean these two. It would almost be more interesting. It would almost be better for my mental state if we lost that game tomorrow, I think. It would give me something stable to plan a next move from. I hope we don't lose, knock on wood. But it would almost be better for my psyche if we did lose. I would feel
just
more
like a spiritual ballast.
Yes.
Weigh you back down a little bit.
Yes, exactly.
Cool, man. I hope that doesn't happen, but if it does, we'll think of that as a silver lining. How's that? Thank you for listening, everybody. Please follow us at Handkerchief DY1 on Twitter. The High Priest of Oilers Magic is at High Priest Oil. We're available on patreon.com/Handkerchief Dynasty. There's some awesome stuff up there for y'all. But yeah, thanks for listening, though. And thanks for talking, brother. I'll catch you after the next game.
Okay. See you later. Go Oilers.
Bye. We got a great guest. Actually, we do have a great guest on Thursday. I'll plug that. Great guest coming on Thursday. One of the favorites amongst the dynasties.
Oh.
Yeah.
Sweet.
You're going to be there for that one, right?
I wouldn't miss it for the world.
You better be.
Okay. See you later.
Night, everybody.